Great. This public hearing is called to order at 6:31 p.m. on Monday, February 14th, 2022 Eastern Standard Time, virtually via WebEx. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony by community members with respect to the citywide statement of needs for city facilities for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. The statement of needs is one of many tools that helps drive effective and equitable siting decisions for city agencies, including new facilities, the relocation, expansion, consolidation, or closure of existing facilities. The primary purpose of this document is to inform communities of the city facility needs and the specific criteria for selecting the locations of those facilities. Members of the public who are viewing the meeting on YouTube and would like to comment on this issue can email info@cb14brooklyn.com, and those emails will be included in the public record of this hearing. Please include your name, address, and organization if applicable with your testimony. Any testimony emails received after the conclusion of this hearing will be an addendum to the board's recommendation. Members of the board who are participating in this hearing via WebEx can use the raise hand icon or speak in the comments on the WebEx screen. For pre-registered speakers,
a participant has joined the meeting.
For pre-registered speakers and members of the public, please state clearly for the record your name, community affiliation, and organization if applicable prior to giving testimony. The time limit for our community speakers is 3 minutes. I will hand it over to District Manager Sean Campbell to outline the statement of needs.
It's very good evening, all. It's a short story because there have been no facilities identified for our district. This is typical. This is a typical year for us. One of the things that is glaringly missing, it's always missing, but this time it's missing more glaringly because we know it's been green lighted, is the 70th Police Precinct. So upon receipt of this year's statement of needs, when I didn't see that in there, I contacted NYPD Capital, and they said that they would work with city planning to get it into the report, but then got back to me and said because the report is already published, it's not going to be added, but we can put it into our comments, which is what we've done in years past. And also makes me wonder, I'm just wondering out loud, why the city asked us to have public hearings on a document if they're saying the document is done. So we'll ask that question in the comments too with the board's approval. But what we've said typically in the past is we'll mention the 70th Police Precinct house. We will ask the Department of City Planning to make sure we are advised should this district become a consideration for facilities. And that's kind of what we tend to do. I looked over facilities for which they are seeking sites, and it doesn't look like there's anything that we would even be a candidate for. Like a lot of them, it's square, like a lot of outdoor square footage for, say, a new NYPD tow pound. We just don't have that kind of space to offer. Other times the needs will indicate that there has to be very easy access to a highway. We don't have that to offer, or waterways, we are landlocked. So I didn't see anything that looks like we should have a heads up. If anybody took a look and had questions about potential sightings, let us know, because we can put it into the response to the city. But that is where we're at.
Are there any questions from board members?
Shahid seems to have a question.
Okay. Okay. Hold on for a second. Okay. Shahid Khan, board member, please go ahead with your question.
No. Nothing.
You're muted, Shahid.
How come we don't see him?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. Through the permission of chair, actually, I just want to we think that last few years we were discussing about the extension or expansion the 70th precinct, because that is very tight and very small building for the 70th precinct. So can we add this thing, including this our budget amendments?
Yes, Mr. Khan, maybe your volume wasn't up when I was talking about it, but the Office of Management and Budget has green lighted a site search. They're funding the city for a site search. The last time I talked to the inspector at NYPD Capitol, I was told that they were just getting together the specs that they need to submit to the real estate division before they go looking for land. So that was in process the last time I had a conversation, which was a few months ago. It's certainly, I'm due to follow up with them again, and I can report back. And if there's any news, we can bring them to a community safety committee. It is a slow process, even when it gets a green light. But we're definitely going to add that in our comments on the district, on the citywide statement of needs, as well as follow up within district with the NYPD and OMB.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to recognize that Councilmember Reader Joseph is on this call. Councilmember, did you want to address this public hearing? And please, again, those of you who aren't
Has joined the meeting.
can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
Happy Monday. I just wanted to follow along and just listen. I have a staffer on. I just wanted to follow along to make sure that I'm represented. That's it.
Oh, you have a community board now?
Thank you very much, Councilmember
yeah.
Joseph. I have two people who have called in. Thank you for muting yourself. I appreciate it. I also want to recognize that DI Esposito, the commanding officer of the 70th precinct, is on the call. I see that Joel, yes, the representative for Councilmember Rita Joseph is on the call, and Ellie Slavin from Congresswoman Yvette Clark's office is on the call. Do any members of the public, are there any members of the public on the call that would like to comment on the statement of needs?
Joan, we still have two board members with hands up too.
Board Member Joe Dweck, please go ahead.
Yeah, on a serious note, can we possibly try to get our electeds in a room these days to try to push the 7-0 precinct? That really might be the way to do it. Get the state people as well as the council, the city people in a room and just try to push this. This is just not going to happen otherwise. It's been 117 years for this precinct. And another issue is that I don't think we should dismiss the idea of a cruising ship port in the 7-0 in the Community Board 14 without a 15-year study.
Joel, given some of our flooding conditions, we can certainly add that.
But seriously,
yes,
can we get a meeting?
We have a letter already composed to the elected officials. I was waiting for NYPD to have their specs done so that so that we're not getting ahead of them. But I think it's time, and that letter, you know, that letter's been drafted. It's the same letter. We changed the dates, we changed the names, and we can try to do an in-person thing or at least a remote thing so that we're bringing everybody to the table. I think our elected officials have, without fail, always supported this request, and so but we can get them to articulate and amplify that support.
If we get everybody in a room, with all due respect to everybody, let's get everybody in the state, the federal, and the local, as well as NYPD and DCAS, and let's try to move it, because right now this has been, obviously nothing's been happening for over 20 years, so it can't hurt.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dweck. Next question or comment will come from Board Member Carl Henry Cesar.
Good evening, Chairwoman Brown. Good evening, folks. Yes, and so I ask this question, I think, the same time every year, and I apologize. And so, you know, I see that we posted the documents up on our website. That's great. So, you know, thank you, Sean and Anya, for that. The question I have too is, can you remind me again in terms of next steps? So is it basically at this point, we just wait to hear from OMB and any other city agencies what they will or will not do. That's it.
Yeah, this is a public hearing to generate comments from the public, and because there is nothing anticipated for our district, the comment is really just making sure that we're apprised should that change, and then asserting the police precinct priority. Or anything, if there was another comment about, needs for a facility, or if somebody had looked at the citywide statement of needs and thought that they had a great lot for, for one of the facilities they're looking for space for, we would gather that information and share it out too. But again, I wasn't anticipating that kind of testimony tonight, just given what they need and what we have. It doesn't look like there's a great match.
Thank you for that, District Manager Campbell. So then I guess the only follow-up question is just that if it turns out a public member or a board member did have an aha moment after this meeting was done, what is the window to get that information to the district office by? Or has that ship sailed?
Oh, I should completely have that date in my head to tell you what it is, but I will say it's 90 days from when they release the statement of needs. I think we have probably close to another 60, but we'll post the date. I can post the date.
Thank you very much.
This is Mr. Platzker. I'm requesting to speak. I'm on the phone. I'm not on the thing. I don't know how to raise my hand from the phone.
Of course. Go ahead, Mr. Platzker. Board Member Steve Platzker. Steve Platzker.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to point out that it was a property that was supposed to be looked at or given over. Sean, you know about that, the one on Nostrand Avenue that I had mentioned to you?
I do, and I don't know, we did bring some properties such as that one to the attention of NYPD, but they didn't follow up because they didn't have their specs ready yet. So it was just information that was sort of ahead of their process, but we can certainly maintain that list and give it back to them for their exploration.
Okay, very well. I just wanted to make sure that they should know about it, at least then, from there, if it's appropriate, it's appropriate. If it's not, it's not.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to recognize that Anthony Drummond, representing Councilmember Farah Lewis, is on the call. I also wanted to recognize that Nancy Lulu
Has left the meeting.
Representing District Attorney Eric Gonzalez. Let's see. Shahid Khan, I see your hand is up again. Is that correct?
Yes. Once again, I need, Chair, your permission to talk about our district. That our district is overall quite well, and we are getting a lot of appreciation just due to our leadership. That Community Board 14 is doing a lot of good work. So I just need to talk about security cameras. If we put some security cameras on our Coney Island Avenue, so we can make sure some more safety in our area. And second thing is, if we think about the working of our non-profit organizations who are really doing great work in this pandemic and COVID, and their food distribution, and their hot food and grocery, everything. So there is a lot of interruption in front of their offices due to parking place. If we see that interruption and blockage, so if we can remove or we can get some permission for their delivery option, they have a long trawlers and a long vehicles, so this will give them some more strength and facility to unload their truck. So if you can look out this one.
Sorry, I think that those are good points, but I think they're more relevant to the regular budget process
Okay.
and would belong, save those thoughts for our next hearing when we comment on the preliminary budget, because this hearing is specifically about facilities, so it's real brick and mortar. I mean, I heard from another board member, we talked a little bit about Newkirk Plaza and whether or not we could sort of shoehorn that, but really that's more regular budget, expense and capital budget. So save that thought because it's a valuable one. It just isn't, this is a very narrow scope on the citywide statement of needs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other board members' hands, I just wanted to go ahead and once again ask if there is any comment from the public before we formulate a recommendation for the full board to vote on at the next meeting. Okay, seeing none, so given District Manager Campbell's comments, the recommendation is to add details to the citywide statement of needs regarding the 70th precinct and the approved site search and DCP notification of any upcoming facilities that may be cited in Community District 14. That being said, do I have a motion for these recommendations, for a recommendation to the full board regarding those two items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Okay. Thank you. I'll do the reverse voting method. Are there any board members in attendance that wish to vote against the recommendation to the full board? Are there any members that wish to abstain? And are there any members that are ineligible to vote due to conflict of interest? Seeing none, the recommendation passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. This public hearing is concluded at 6:48 p.m. We will return promptly at 7 o'clock to begin our general meeting. So I will see you then. Thank you very much.
If people are hanging out to just stay on the screen and chat a bit, I do want to make sure that Councilmember Rita Joseph, first of all, I want to express your thanks for being here, and we'll get some additional information to your office about the precinct house. But I also want to give a shout out to Joel, because his face has been in a lot of our meetings lately, and he's been very proactive about gathering information about what we're talking about. And we appreciate your devotion of your staff to our meetings, and we appreciate his time. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome. We promise to be present, Sean, and we're here, ready
Awesome.
to work in
Awesome.
collaboration. Thank you so much.
For sure.
Thank you, Sean. And I'm still learning all of the new incoming representatives' names. So forgive me if somehow I overlook you, and feel free to put your name in the chat, and I will definitely see you. Thank you so much.
I'll make sure to do that. No worries.
This meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 14 is called to order on Monday, February 14th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time under the applicable statutes of New York State, the Charter of New York City, the board's bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order. The board's policy is to encourage detailed public discussion of matters before the board at our committee meetings and at public hearings. Consequently, except by board members, there will be no public discussion at our regular monthly meeting of matters about which a public hearing or a committee meeting has been held. Service delivery requests or complaints should be brought to the attention of the district office staff by calling the board office during regular business hours or by visiting our website anytime. Other matters of civic interest may be brought before the board during our scheduled public comment period, which will begin tonight after all other business on the board's monthly meeting agenda has been concluded. No partisan political appeals or advertising for profit enterprises will be heard. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period were asked to pre-register. Tonight's attendance, because of the robust agenda that we had, will be taken from the participants list. First, I'd just like to acknowledge representatives of our elected officials that have joined us this evening. I have Anthony Drummond from Councilmember Farrah Lewis's office, Ellie Slavin from Congresswoman Clark's office, Joelle Dusouvier from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office, Lisa Derrick from Assemblymember Bichotte Hermelin, Nancy Lulu from DA Eric Gonzalez. Let me just do a quick scan to see if anybody else. Also, we have Councilmember Rita Joseph on the line. Councilmember, would you like to address this general meeting? So I'll come back to her if she has something that she needs to say. I would like to recognize that DI Allison Esposito, the commanding officer of the 70th precinct, is here. Let's see, what else do I have? Almost there, everyone. Saw someone. Pincus Hyken from the comptroller's office is here. Thank you for joining us. And I will take a quick look again as we move forward. Moving on to the minutes. The minutes were sent to board members via email. Were any corrections sent to the board office via email about the minutes of the January general meeting?
No, they were not.
Okay. Are there any corrections from the floor? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 2022 general meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I will do reverse voting in this case. Any board members not in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand. Any board members wish to abstain from voting on the minutes? And finally, anyone find themselves in a conflict of interest and unable to vote? Seeing none, the minutes pass unanimously. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, District Manager Sean Campbell's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few things tonight, but I'll try to talk fast. I first of all want to just acknowledge the passing of long-serving board member Gary Schultz. Gary was a character and was very dedicated to his family, to teaching law at Brooklyn Law, and to this board. He was remembered by his kids at his funeral last Thursday, who really brought out the sweeter side of Gary. The 70th Police Precinct was generous and gracious enough to acknowledge the fact that he had been to probably every memorial at the precinct by honoring him with an escort to the cemetery. There were a number of board members there, those of you who had served with him for a long time, including our Chair Emeritus, Alvin Burke, and Ed Powell, and current Chair Joanne Brown. And then some of the members who didn't know him that well, but were there because you're all in this together. And I think Gary made an impression, and it was really sweet and kind, and his family really appreciated it. I heard from his daughter the day after that she was really touched. I don't know how to move from that. I'll miss Gary, even, you know, his daughter said, the more he loved you, the more, I'll just say, stuff he gave you. So I was like, oh, he must have loved me so much. But I'll miss that guy.
He will be missed, and I will miss him too.
Is there anybody else? I don't want to move right on, so if anybody else has anything to say, please do.
In the old days, we had the Korean boycott, which was 30 years ago, and it was really a crucible that we all were boiled up in. And we go back, Gail and I, and Gary and Swiss Albert and Ed to those days, and all the days since. And I don't think he's missed a meeting. God bless him. And he was certainly a character, but a lot of fun and a friend.
He always added levity to all the meetings, and he's just a good person, and definitely will be missed.
There is a website where you can share memories that the family is collecting, and I'll make sure that we get that to you. Did I interrupt somebody? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say that, you know, I didn't serve that long with him, but for a while, yes, I did. He did have a funny side to him. Anyway.
Thanks, everyone. Moving back to business. I've reported out to this board a few different times that I was involved with a working group, and we put together a Future of Community Boards report. The city limits carried a story on it last week. We'll have it posted on our website under the About Us tab pretty soon, and I encourage you all to take a look. Because we collaborated with so many boards from all over the city, not everything in the report is pertinent to our board, but we did contribute, or I contributed experience that really dovetailed with other boards, and we're going to use this as a sort of platform or a springboard even for requesting with some of our new elected officials, and we've already submitted it to Borough Hall, to kind of just articulate what our needs are, what need for support is, and how we're continuously being asked to do more and more and more with relatively less and less. So we hope that it gets some traction. My colleague Celeste Leon from CB4, which is Bushwick, provided a great deal of leadership and should be applauded for it. One of the newest district managers, so she has the most energy. We held a fruitful district service cabinet meeting on February 2nd, where we tried to tackle some of our interagency issues and got somewhere with some of them, and really appreciated the updates and reports from my colleagues at other city agencies, and had our first, with this new administration, Borough Service Cabinet on February 10th, and Borough President Reynoso himself presided over it. He committed to being there as much as possible, or leaving it with the deputy borough president, so we have high-level administrative officials at our borough service cabinet meetings. And we talked about how to do better at getting things done, and so I'm looking forward to working with them to get things done. And then quickly, I'll try to do a short report on a long hearing, and thank Councilmember Farah Lewis, who I see has joined us, for really facilitating my participation in the City Council hearing last week on open restaurants. That was a hearing that began at 10 in the morning and ended at 7 in the evening. I presented testimony at about 6:30 in the evening. And my testimony was pretty much what this board has already said before. I reiterated the board's position that when DOT asked us to opine on the proposal, it was not a fully realized plan. And so we were asked to give a recommendation on half an idea. And to the extent that council members had about 3 hours worth of questions for DOT, and some of the answers was, we're still working on that. It seems very apparent that DOT still hasn't fully realized its proposal. And so, as the board had asked in September of 2021, I asked that DOT complete its plan, bring it back to the local level, to the community board level again, for local input before the city council body consider changing the law to accommodate the plan. I also reiterated the concern that DOT has a lot in its portfolio and isn't able to answer how they will decide which street use will prevail on any given block. So whether it's something for the private sector like a restaurant or city bike or electric vehicle charging versus something that's public use such as express bus lanes, bike lanes, and I even said it out loud, even parking. There needs to be a reason or a way that we know which types of streets will get which uses, and there doesn't seem to be that yet. So that's as short as I could make it. I am done. Certainly still looking for any local input on that so that we can, I think DOT is coming back to the borough board. We're trying to get them to come back to the community board, and I'll keep you all posted on their willingness or ability to do that. But they are coming back to borough board with some more of their blanks filled in. Thank you.
Thank you, District Manager Sean Campbell. Wanted to recognize that Councilmember Farah Lewis is on the call. Councilmember, did you want to address this group?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Sorry, I'm on another laptop. Good evening, CB14. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope you all had a great weekend. Definitely want to send my condolences to the Schultz family. wishing everyone a happy Black History Month, a Lunar New Year, and Valentine's Day. I want to thank Sean Campbell and the executives at CB14 for taking our call and for participating in last week's DOT meeting. It was just a way for us to collaborate on a citywide level and just to stay on top of agencies like DOT to ensure that they're responding to us and also thinking about our community, our district, and our community board regarding ongoing concerns that we have here in our community. Sometimes they think about things on a very micro level, not thinking about other communities. So thank you, Sean, for participating, and we look forward to DOT's response to our concerns. I also wanted to share and address, I've been seeing in the press that the CB14 area and community and Council District 45, they often say that we do not have open streets. We do have open streets in Council District 45. So I don't know if any of these reporters are on or folks that are affiliated with Open Streets or Street. I forgot the name of the blog. We do have open streets in Council District 45. It's Hello Place. It's a very, very spacious area, and it is an open street. So if you want to have that conversation, feel free to reach out to me. Also wanted to share that February 22nd, 2022 is the last day to apply for discretionary funding application for the City Council. My office will be co-hosting an event and the final discretionary funding meeting with Councilmember Joseph tomorrow. We have the flyer to share with Community Board 14, so feel free to reach out to any of our offices if you would like to participate. I want to encourage everyone to apply on time. That means if you try to apply on February 23rd, we cannot help you, and there's no magic wand for us to reopen the application link. You have to apply by February 22nd, and please do not wait till the last day. I also want to take this time to quickly address and denounce the rise in anti-Semitic attacks in the whole borough, the whole city, but particularly in the Midwood area. A young man, Mr. Lax, in Midwood was attacked. He was hit, and I've definitely denounced this crime. We know it's unacceptable, and we're looking forward to working with the DA's office and the NYPD to continue to address these issues. We definitely had an uptick in our whole city, up to over 500 incidents. So we know that there needs to be some added pressure in order to provide resources to address these recent attacks here in our community, as well as Asian store owner on Avenue H. It's just an ongoing issue that we know that needs to be addressed. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We're available. We're in the office. Feel free to call us. Our number is 718-629-2900, and the email is district45@council.nyc.gov. I will add that into the chat. And if anybody has any questions or concerns or need anything or wants to partner in anything, feel free to reach out to us. Have a blessed rest of the month. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council Member. Next, I'd like to ask Deputy Inspector Allison Esposito if she'd like to address this body.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I can tell by the number of people that you have a number of significant others that are probably agitated with you for being on this meeting instead of taking them out to dinner and the roses and the candy and everything traditionally that goes along with it. So thank you for being here. I definitely wanted to make sure that I was able to address you. I am actually going to miss next week's community council meeting because I'm actually away in Iceland. It was a trip that got pushed off twice for COVID, and I'm finally going with my family, so I'm very excited about that. But I did want to address you. I wanted to say hello. I wanted to take any questions that you might have. The 7-0 precinct, we have seen an increase in crimes over the last few weeks and months, and it's something that we're taking very, very seriously. We have robberies that are up, and a lot of that is, and I addressed it at another meeting, a lot of the robberies that we are seeing in the area have to do with shoplifting robberies, that people are removing small items or items from the store, and then when the security guard or a shopkeep tries to stop them, it becomes a physical confrontation. So a petty larceny, something seemingly insignificant, is now elevating to felony crime, and we're seeing store owners get injured. Just saw the Asian man that was unfortunately struck numerous times when an emotionally disturbed criminal wanted to get some coffee and get out of the store, and he tried to stop him, and unfortunately that man suffered some injuries, and we don't want to see that. We never want to see property crimes go bad where people are physically assaulted. So please leave it to us. Call 911. We will deal with it, but it's not worth you getting hurt. It's not worth one of your security guards getting hurt, and it's definitely not worth one of our elderly in our community getting hurt. Just like Councilmember Lewis alluded to, we don't tolerate any crime, but a crime that is based on hate, whether it's the Jewish community or the Asian community or any member of the community, rest assured that the NYPD will do everything in its power to bring that person to justice, and we will put resources in areas to make people feel safer when we can. We want to continue to be a phenomenal partner with Community Board 14 and the residents of the 7-0 precinct. It's very important to us that not only are the people safe, but the people feel safe. And that's definitely something as we move on, we will be addressing. Grand larceny autos as well. We are seeing a major increase in that. And ladies and gentlemen, it's predominantly people that are leaving the cars running when they go into stores, and they're coming out and finding that their cars are no longer there. Please get it out to your friends, your relatives, your constituents, that when you stop, if you're double parking, you know, that's a traffic summons. If you leave the car on with your hazards, it's the same double parking summons, if you're even going to get it. But when you leave the car on and running, even if the key is in your pocket, people are jumping into the cars and they're driving away with it. And we are seeing an increase in those cars being used in violent crime, shootings around the city. So please, everyone, take the time, take the key out of the car, shut the ignition, lock the door. I'm seeing way too many on a monthly basis, and we're talking 10, 15, 20, and upwards of 22, 23 on a monthly basis that are being taken. And the good majority of them, something like 70 to 80%, are unlocked and running. So please keep that in mind. It's just a crime where you don't need to be a victim of that crime. Very, very easily stopped. Along the GLA route is traffic safety. We have a lot of corridors, our Flatbush, our Coney Island. Please, we're seeing people get hit unnecessarily. Make sure you're looking both ways if you're the pedestrian crossing the street. And if you're the driver, stay off of your phone. Watch that blind spot. Slow down. It's the most horrible thing in the world for us to see someone who turns a corner and it's not intentional, but they end up taking a life or causing a critical injury. That's something that you have to live with as a driver. So it's not intent, but it's still something you're going to have to live with. So please, 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 traffic safety seems like it's the least of our concerns when we're talking about, you know, crimes and finances and everything else that are going along with the city. But it is a component of it, and I please ask you to be cognizant. Again, you know, I just wanted to address and say hello and take any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Deputy Inspector. I have quite a few questions coming from board members. We'll start with Board Member Yehuda Eckstein. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say publicly that in the 7-0, unfortunately, on Avenue I, last week we had 2 women from the Jewish community that were assaulted or groped inappropriately by an individual, one on East 24th and one on East 27th. And I just want to say that not only was the community affairs officers on the phone with me and others at all hours of the night, but the CO herself, I spoke to, I believe, after 11 o'clock at night, we were in touch. And she immediately deployed additional resources to the area, and there was visible patrol in addition to Flatbush Showman that added additional patrols there. But the CO was extremely responsive, and I just want to thank her on behalf of the community for the work that she did last week and calming the community, and hopefully an arrest will be made soon on that case. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're looking forward to an arrest in that case as well. Again, these are crimes that we don't tolerate against our residents, and I will work with you personally. My community affairs is the best in the city, and they will work with you personally, and we will be in your area and around. And again, our intention is to not only keep you safe, but make you feel safe. So I'll always be available then. But thank you very much, Yehuda.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Nina Sabgir, board member.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, Detective Esposito. The issue of traffic violence was brought up, and to say, to people, you need to watch when you're crossing the street does not address the incredible number of people that drive right through red lights. And I've actually been in intersections, and I'm not talking about starting out early because the light's going to change. I'm talking about having that lead pedestrian interval, a full, white crossing light, and bam, drivers, usually they are in very big vehicles, SUV, the large SUVs, pickup trucks, etc., and they just go right on through the intersection as if the red light is, oh yeah, well, never mind. And I just think that there really needs to be a huge crackdown on the speeding and the running of red lights, stop signs, and so forth. Traffic violations are what's killing people, not pedestrians failing to look when they cross the street. Thank you.
I agree that traffic violations are a large component of that, but everything is multifaceted, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring up all aspects of it. So again, bringing to your attention to make sure that you're aware of your surroundings doesn't lessen the driver's fault at all, and that was not my intention. We have had a number of traffic incidents where the driver has been arrested. We do respond immediately. We conduct an investigation, and if we determine that the driver is at fault in any way, then we take action immediately. As far as traffic enforcement and crackdowns, we do have red light cameras, we do have speed cameras, and we do have a traffic team that's sole purpose in my command is to enforce those hazardous violations in collision-prone areas. So it's not, my traffic team isn't out writing expired registrations and things like that. Their target is drivers, just like you said, failing to yield to pedestrians, drivers that are running red lights, drivers with excessive speed, drivers that are driving recklessly. We've all seen the drivers that they miss their turn or they're about to miss their turn and they cut from one end of the highway to the other. So those are the kind of violations that I task my teams with enforcing. So I hear you, and rest assured, it is my executive officer is she is the spearhead for that, and she takes it very, very seriously. And they are out there writing. My community affairs and my crime prevention, they are out there addressing large crowds for traffic safety. They are addressing drivers. We give out pamphlets. We have been doing checkpoints, specifically in the area of Regent, Flatbush, and on Coney Island as well. And when we stop these drivers, we are indicating that we are summoning.
Claudia Salazar, Catholic Charities, has left the meeting.
We are indicating that we are summoning vehicles for that, and we are providing informational pamphlets at these car stops and at these checkpoints so that drivers are aware that the NYPD does not tolerate reckless driving. Again, whatever it is, whether it's a violent crime or whether it's a traffic infraction, our job is public safety and the preservation of human life. We take that very seriously. So I hear you, and it will be enforced.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can take one last question from board member Dwayne Joseph.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, DI Esposito. Thank you for doing the call. Just two quick things. I wanted to really applaud you and your team for the efforts you've been making the last couple of months in getting tips out to the community, your efforts on the ground, handing out flyers, handing out pamphlets, letting people know about different ways to protect themselves and their property. And I'm curious, given what you reported earlier about the increase in crimes on burglaries or these robberies at businesses, do you plan on making the same effort to inform the business owners, and when can we see that starting?
Actually, I have a meeting this week. I have a meeting this week with the bid and all the business owners along the corridors, and they put it out to all of a lot of the small businesses in the area. And it's one meeting is just the beginning of it. There's going to be a multitude of meetings addressing this. I want to keep people safe, and a lot of times people think they're doing a good thing. This is my store, this is my property, and I do feel for these businesses that are repeated targets for the larcenies, and they're losing so much money, and they feel like they have to step in and stop themselves because they're feeling like either the criminal justice system or the policies or the police or whatever are failing to protect them. So I feel for them. But yes, I have a meeting this week with a good amount of business owners because, again, that's on my top list. I want to keep people safe. And you're going to see many more meetings after that. It doesn't matter what the crime is. My philosophy or my position is going to be, I need to educate people. I need to keep people in the loop so that they can protect themselves and they can make the best, most informed choices. Looking at the precinct as a partner, rather than I have to call them so that they can deal with this. I want my team to be considered partners with the residents and the business owners, so that they can make informed decisions and they can make sure that they're keeping each other safe and I'm keeping everyone safe.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you so much, Deputy Inspector Esposito, for joining us tonight. And we appreciate you being with our community during this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and move the agenda forward. Thank you for all of the questions from board members. Moving on to the chair's report. Good evening, board members. Happy Black History Month and Happy Lunar New Year to all who celebrate. In sad news, our condolences to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke in the passing of her life partner of 30 years, Mr. Charles B. Durham. May his memory be a blessing. We wish her strength in this difficult time. Community Board 14 acknowledges the passing of Gary A. Schultz, a retired longtime board member, lifelong Midwood resident, and professor at Brooklyn Law School. Professor Schultz co-chaired the Public Safety Committee for many years. He had a soft spot for the 70th Precinct and never missed a memorial for a fallen officer. Professor Schultz was an outspoken, exemplary board member and mentor for freshman members. Community Board 14 was well represented at his services last Thursday, and we wish his children and family comfort in this difficult time. If board members wish to write his children recalling a memory that you have of him, please contact the board office. His devoted children have set up a dedicated email address to eagerly receive your memories. And I'd also like to thank the 70th Precinct for providing an escort to his place of internment.
That was our pleasure. He is, as you can see here with everyone speaking about him, he was a very respected member of the community and the precinct. And I didn't have the opportunity to work with him myself, but my people speak very highly of him, and his presence will be missed.
Well, we thank you for doing that. Moving on to the board's recommendation regarding the citywide statement of needs for city facilities fiscal year 2023 and 2024. The board's recommendation was to add comments to the citywide statement of needs regarding the 70th precinct, and also notification from DCP of a facility within our district, within Community District 14. Unanimously, the board approved the recommendation. Are there any questions from board members on this call regarding the recommendation for citywide statement of needs? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll do reverse voting in this case. Are there any board members that care to not approve the recommendation from the public hearing? Any board members wish to abstain? And are any board members considered ineligible to vote?
Madam Chair, I just want to confirm that Yehuda Eckstein's hand is up from a previous question and isn't an expression of voting.
Yes, I'll
negative
I'll take my hand down. I'm sorry, Sean.
That's okay. Just wanted to state it for the record. Thank you, Yehuda.
Thank you for the housekeeping. So unanimously, the recommendation passes. I want to recognize that Eileen Mulaney Newman is here to represent Borough President Reynoso. Thank you for being here. Moving on, reporting on the public hearing that was on February 7th, 2022 regarding DSS DHS shelter at 1 Kenilworth Place. I often find it difficult to opine directly as I moderate these public hearings. I want to thank all of the community members and board members who once again had to labor to get answers to their questions. I also want to thank board member Michelle Brunson for additional research she did and provided to the board office. We really appreciate that. That being said, I'm going to take a few minutes to be frank about the process thus far. CB14 has held 2 public hearings regarding the proposed 200-bed women's shelter at 1 Kenilworth, and to date, the operator, Children's Rescue Fund, has failed to provide a formal presentation to the community as part of community engagement. On January 28th, District Manager Campbell sent over 30 questions to CRF and the Department of Homeless Services. These were compiled through input from the community, the board, and from administrative concerns. In doing so, we prefaced that we likely would already be included in the upcoming presentation at the hearing. Hint. As we introduced CRF, we learned that they had no formal presentation to provide. They were there to answer questions and not lead the discussion. This is wholly unacceptable from the standpoint of efficient community engagement. My observation is that CRF has time and time again come before the community as an organization that does the bare minimum. I cannot in good conscience stand here before the community and this board and say that I am not significantly disappointed and concerned. If the operator relies on the bare minimum with respect to community engagement, then I question how will the 200 women in need of critical services be cared for. For this, I lay the onus on the Department of Homeless Services and Social Services. There are clearly no guidelines or expectations from DHS or DSS of how community engagement should be conducted. Again, this places the labor of due diligence on the part of the community. CRF has failed us in the realm of community engagement and has created unnecessary anxiety throughout the community that generally supports the shelter. This is truly unacceptable. For the above reasons, I would like to propose the following resolution to the board. Now, for new board members or board members who maybe forgot some parliamentary procedure, resolutions are expressed as a consensus on matters of public policy. Using this device, the community board can deliver criticism or support on a broad range of issues that are outside of our purview to vote upon directly. In this case, the resolution before you is a formal account of the board's actions in the form of a timeline and our next step. I shall read the resolution that was sent to board members today via email. Let me bring that up. Okay. The resolution. Whereas on December 28th, 2020, the Department of Social Services notified Brooklyn Community Board 14, known as CB14, of a family shelter to be operated by Campbell at 1 Kenilworth Place. And whereas DSS subsequently asked CB14 to delay a public hearing on that contract until further notice. And whereas DSS did not provide further notice until October 7th, 2021, when an email was sent to the district manager notifying CB14 of a 200-bed shelter, women's shelter to be operated by Children's Rescue Fund, CRF, at 1 Kenilworth Place. And whereas DSS noted that the change was made after a number of conversations with many community leaders and stakeholders, but to date, DSS has not been able to identify any of those parties. And whereas CB14 held a public hearing on November 3rd, 2021, and neither DSS nor CRF came prepared with a formal presentation. And whereas Community Board 14 compiled a list of more than 30 questions in advance of a second public hearing on February 7th, 2022, and whereas CRF nevertheless did not make a presentation at the second hearing and responded that they were still working on answers. And whereas DSS Turning the Tide letter states as a goal to completely end the use of 360 substandard sites, including cluster sites and commercial hotels. And whereas CRF operates 22 of such sites, 10 of which have between 25 and 132 Department of Buildings and Department of Health and Mental Hygiene violations. And whereas despite several requests for the names of the principals of New Brooklyn LLC, which is the owner and landlord of 1 Kenilworth Place, CRF still has not provided the names of the LLC members. And whereas CB14 has substantiated through a FOIL request to Brooklyn College that New Brooklyn LLC was a seriously problematic landlord. And whereas CB14 has expressed concern that CRF was a $24 million organization according to its 2020 IRS 990, and this is an $81 million contract. And whereas this raises the question of organizational experience and capacity, and whereas it was announced at the February 7th public hearing that CRF has been awarded another contract for a site at East 29th Street and Tilden Avenue. And whereas this is the fourth shelter announced within the 3 years within a 1.2 miles, including a men's shelter at 566 Coney Island Avenue, opened in late July 2019, the men's shelter at 21 Duryea Place, announced in December 2019 and set to open November 22nd, and a women's shelter at 1 Kenilworth Place, announced October 21st and set to open March 22nd. And whereas CB14 recognizes the need for providing shelter for people experiencing homelessness and recognizes the district's responsibility for hosting shelters, and recognizes that New York City is a right to shelter city, and applauds those organizations that serve vulnerable members of our community, and thus considers it the utmost importance that those services be provided by organizations with a proven track record and capacity. And whereas an organization that is awarded such a substantial contract so significantly beyond its current revenue should have a proven track record, or at least a solid, transparent plan to present to its host community. But as of February 7th, CRF has failed to make a formal presentation, had not met with the NYPD, the local bid, and reported only 2 linkages agreements. And whereas CB14 has offered support and assistance to facilitate introductions to community stakeholders around 1 Kenilworth, the greater community and CRF has committed to establishing a community advisory board, but to date has not demonstrated meaningful community engagement. Be it therefore resolved that Brooklyn Community Board 14 has requested that New York City Comptroller's Office conduct a thorough review of the contract before it is registered with the City of New York, and that DSS and CRF be ordered to respond to all submitted questions before beginning operations. Let me go back to my... Okay. So are there any questions from board members regarding the resolution that they received via email today? I see that Joe Dweck has a hand up. Please go ahead, Joe Dweck.
Madam Chairwoman, bravo, bravo. Just beautifully done, beautifully written. Thank you.
I second that. It was beautiful. I was just going to say how well written it was. Beautiful.
Yeah, Yehuda Eckstein third that was amazing that what you just did. And very well comprehensive laid out. And I agree with every single thing you said.
Well documented, well articulated. Kudos to you. I concur with everything that's been said.
I want to thank you all for that. Thank you very much. Of course, I did not do it alone with the help of the great District Manager, Sean Campbell. Glenn Wallen, you have your hand up.
Yes, I also would like to applaud how well this is written. but I do have a couple of questions. One is it not too late? That is, isn't the contract already let? Do we have time to get in ahead of this to prevent what might be a problem? First of all, and then just a very quick thing in your last paragraph, you say has requested. I think you haven't yet requested, so it probably should read
Yes, we have.
request or something more along those lines. But I also wonder, the community advisory panel that you mentioned in the next to the last paragraph, if that might not also be included in the final paragraph as something that the city controller should insist upon, because that's the only time we actually have any input, should we actually get answers to the questions that were presented. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
So we did submit the request to the comptroller's office. So in terms of tenths of time in the resolution, saying has requested is appropriate. I did read your email to Sean earlier today regarding the advisory board. The advisory board, from my understanding, is going to focus on the operations, not. So, for example, when they have begun to bring in residents into the building. So the community advisory board is about current operations as opposed to pre-operation. But with regard to your concern with stating in this resolution, I wanted to add a small edit to that, the second to the last paragraph, where it would read, whereas CB14 has offered support and assistance to facilitate introductions to community stakeholders around One Kenilworth and the greater community, and CRF has committed to establishing a community advisory board, but to date has not demonstrated a meaningful community engagement. Someone that needs to unmute themselves, please. Thanks. The sentence I'd like to add is, or offered a timeline for the creation of such an advisory board.
Florence Valentino? Okay. She's done it. Thank you.
Thanks. How does that sound? So I would be adding a short segment to the end where it would say, or offered a timeline for the creation of such an advisory board. So thus, pointing out the fact that we are concerned about when the advisory board would be named. Okay, I'll leave it there. Next comment question from Ann Gaudette.
Thank you very much for both the writing of the resolution to you, Joanne, as well as the board office. I'm sure there was a lot of input, and I agree with every comma. Further on something Glenn just raised, do you know if the contract is already registered? Thank you.
May I speak to that, Madam Chair? Yeah. Just to be clear to the board members and to the community at large, it is DHS's policy to not let the community or not invite the community to weigh in on siting locations and on the provider. So we don't really have a say in whether or not this is moving forward. You're right. I think that the impact of this resolution is to get the provider to start doing things the right way and to respond to the questions and to get DHS, compel DHS to make this a requirement. And then maybe, and this is a worst case scenario, is in the review, have the comptroller discover something is amiss and maybe then slow down the process, maybe identify a new one. But I think the reality is this group is coming in and this is the program they're running and this is the location at which it will be run. And so this is sort of I don't know if y'all watched Super Bowl last night, but this is a Hail Mary to try to get them to step up right.
Yes, indeed. Alvin Burke, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Alvin, you're muted.
You're
You need
muted,
to
Alvin.
unmute, Alvin.
Still muted. Can't hear
Still
you, Alvin.
muted.
Alvin, you're still muted. So unfortunately, we didn't hear what you just said. Can you unmute yourself and then tell us again what you're thinking?
I'd like to know whether you've identified who will be the recipient of this resolution. Did you hear me?
Yes. Sean, is our intention? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly the partly the public comment tonight to have it on public record. And it will be sent to the mayor's office, the elected officials, the agency, the provider, and the comptroller's office.
Thank you. Sounds like a good list.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Next question from Nina Sebgear.
Thank you, Joanne and Sean, for a really well written resolution. You know, the issue of this particular organization and their poor community engagement, their kind of lack of respect for the host community came up at the first meeting. And, you know, as you said, this may be a kind of a Hail Mary, but maybe, hopefully, it will put the Children's Rescue on notice that they are under close scrutiny and that we will be watching and that we expect appropriate community engagement and appropriate responsibility, first and foremost, of course, to the women who are going to be in this facility, but also to the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Next question is from Joel Siegel.
Thank you. I don't know that I have a question, but you know, I was involved with the when they opened the men's shelter on Coney Island near Beverly, and DHS did a much better job at community engagement at that, and I was a member of the advisory board thereafter for a while. So DHS knows how to do it right or do it better. So, you know, they're the ones who need to hold this entity, their feet to the fire. And if I had to bet, their contract probably requires the entity to engage in this in community contact. So, and also I wanted to add that when that shelter opened, Bobby Carroll was instrumental in making sure that the community was involved. I mean, yes, when DHS does these projects, you know, and this is how they think they have to do it, it's a done deal. So we come in after the fact. But nevertheless, yeah, I think it was helpful, the community involvement with that shelter. And again, DHS knows how to do it right. That's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burke, you have your hand up again. Did you want to go ahead and speak?
I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
No worries. Thank you. Sean put in the chat that there was an additional recommendation via email, which I can't seem to locate right now.
I'm sorry. I think I don't know what I typed, but I meant that there were some email corrections and edits that we will that we'll adopt into the resolution, especially, you know, my misspellings. So I just wanted to reassure those board members that we did receive those comments, and we'll fold them into the resolution, assuming that the board can approve it, knowing that there will be some minor edits, but not at all in substance.
Okay, thanks a lot. I didn't see the emails from the 3 board members that had sent additional suggestions. I apologize. Okay. So I'd like to move towards adoption of this document. Let me get myself back to my script.
You have a motion to approve from Yehuda Eckstein.
Second the motion, Cindy Bendel.
Okay. Thank you very much, both of you. So I will go ahead and do the reverse vote. Mr. Burke, you still have your hand up, so do let me know if you have any misgivings about adopting this resolution.
I have no misgivings about adopting the resolution. I just don't know how to get my hands on it.
No, don't worry. It's okay. I'm going to ignore it for now, and I'll just keep checking and just wave at me and I'll see you because oh, you get it. We did it for you. All right, great.
Thank you.
I'm just, okay, and I just want to clarify one thing before I start the voting. If there are board members here that have a conflict of interest due to a connection to one of the city agencies, please raise your hand at the point where you are ineligible to vote, not abstaining, because they mean 2 different things. I see a hand up. Is that for ineligible to vote? Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else ineligible to vote?
And myself, Boris.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And just backtracking a little bit, are there any board members that wish to not approve this resolution? And any board members abstaining from voting? Okay, thank you very much, anyone. We have just the 2 ineligible to vote. I really appreciate your time and patience while I read all of that. Thanks. I'm going to move on to the next item of the chair's report, which is the Borough Board report. The Borough Board met on February 1st. The agenda was light. We heard announcements from elected officials and their representatives. Borough President Reynoso updated the board on the new community board application and instructions regarding the legacy application. I believe you've all seen that email. Board members received those updates via email. Moving on for the report from the executive committee. First item on the agenda was the report regarding the former comptroller Scott Stringer's citywide audit of community boards. The report noted that CB lacked a monthly hearing in the following instances. We acknowledge that there were no public hearings in December 2019 or February 2020. The lack of public hearings during the months of April and May of 2020 was due to the extraordinary conditions within the pandemic, and there was no business before the board warranting a public hearing, such as land use items, since all were at a halt for much of the year. The executive committee and interested board members reviewed the process by which the public comment is received in public hearings and the committee meetings and general board meetings. And overwhelmingly, the recommendation from the executive committee and interested board members was to preserve the current protocol, which is public comment will be relegated to public hearings and committee meetings. There will be no public comment at general meetings of matters by which a public hearing or committee meeting was held. And lastly, the public comment period during the general meeting will remain as the last agenda item. Are there any questions from board members before I seek a vote on this recommendation from the executive committee? Seeing none, based on the recommendations, I seek confirmation from the full board. So there is a consensus to preserve our current protocol. Therefore, wish to suggest a motion of the same, that robust public comment before the board be heard at public hearings and topical committees. Public comment period during general meetings remains at the end of the session. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay. Thank you. We'll do reverse voting. Any board member wish to not approve the recommendation from the executive committee? Alvin, your hand, oh. Alvin, your hand is up. Is that you wish to not vote? Just checking.
My hand is up. I'm responding belatedly to your question for comment.
Oh, would you like to comment? Please go ahead. I'm sorry, just for clarification, Mr. Burke, are you voting against this motion? I apologize.
I apologize too. I'm remarkably clumsy with the keyboard. I have a substantive concern, and that is that we have to clarify that discussion at a meeting doesn't rise to the standard of discussion at a public hearing, because the notice requirements may differ and be specific for hearings and general for committee meetings. So the prohibition against discussion of matters before the board should be conditioned to a different extent by the kind of gathering which is discussed. I can imagine the circumstances, and I've experienced circumstances in which there have been discussions at committee meetings that simply have not risen to the level of public participation as discussion at public hearings. I would counsel that we reconsider the motion at this time until we can modify the language. And I apologize for the lateness with which I'm submitting this, but I had personal issues that interfered with my review of the motion.
Understood. Just to clarify what I do understand what you're talking about, that what I was trying to do was respond to the comptroller's report and to clarify with the executive committee that this was the direction that we wanted to continue to move in. So I see that Sean Campbell's hand up. Would you like to participate in this conversation?
Yeah, just to clarify that, like you just said, the issue about which the board is asking to decide is whether to maintain the public session at the end of the agenda of the regular monthly meetings. The way the comptroller's audit read is if that public comment session was about items that were being reported out in the committee reports, and they're not. I think that the chair has always practiced discretion in allowing public comment, even sometimes on public hearings when either there was a controversy or something unanswered at the hearing or something like that, and the chair can still always practice discretion to allow public questions or comments on committee reports. But we shouldn't have to design our agenda around allowing that to happen every single time, because our culture has always been to encourage the public discussion at the committee meetings, and to hold the public hearings for public input, and to use the monthly meetings more as a reporting out mechanism. But that doesn't prohibit 100% of the time any comment at those meetings. It just means we're not designing our agenda around that comment. Otherwise, what's the point of having a committee meeting? We'll just do it all at the same time at the board meeting. I hope that I went on a little bit. I hope that clarified instead of muddled.
I may have been conflating two issues. The distinction between prohibition against voting by non-board members about matters about which public hearing or committee meeting has been held. And I'm afraid I conflated that with the issue of the controllers, the timing of the public comment period. So could I, with all due deference to the chair, ask the chair to repeat the motion?
Sure. I mean, I'm just I'm thinking about what you said. I'm gonna read what the previous one was, and that perhaps we just, and perhaps modify it based on your comments. So the motion was to preserve the means in which we have been operating before the comptroller's audit, which was public comment will be relegated to public hearings and committee meetings. There will be no public comment at general meetings of matters by which a public hearing or committee meeting was held. And lastly, the public comment period during the general meeting will remain as the last agenda item. How does that sound to you, Mr. Burke?
Sounds okay. Sorry, I can't unmute it. I'm going to mute myself again.
Okay.
I don't know.
So given we have had a bit of discussion about the motion, I feel it's necessary to bring that before the board again and ask for it to be first and seconded if board members wish to do so.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve with changes.
Okay.
And seconded.
Thank you, everyone. So I'll and now understanding what the spirit is, I'll go ahead and do reverse voting. I'm sorry. Board members who wish not to approve the motion, please raise your hand.
My hand is down.
Okay. Thank you very much for clarifying. Thank you. Any board members wish to abstain? Any board members find themselves, excuse me, ineligible to vote? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, everyone, for being patient. I think it was important that the question was raised and clarified here. Moving on, regarding state liquor authority applications, given the expected passage of zoning text amendments related to open restaurants, I brought before the board the possible necessity of reviewing new SLA applications that may be associated with sidewalk and roadway dining. The board identified 3 types of applications: new applications, renewals with changes to alcohol service, like delivery to new sidewalk and roadway seating, and straight renewals with no changes where alcohol is to be served. The matter is complex, raises issue of capacity of this board and staff, and required more discussion than time would allow. The matter was tabled and will be revisited at the next executive committee meeting. The date will be the date to be determined. Moving on, just some last matters of housekeeping were addressed in that meeting, including topical committee co-chair responsibilities, community board reappointment applications, and letters to absent board members. Moving on to report from the nominating committee. I'd like to call the chair of the nominating committee to address this body and report your results.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The nominating committee meeting took place on Thursday, February 3rd. No nominations came before the nominating committee during this meeting. Members of the nominating committee voted to keep the current executive board as the slate of candidates for this election cycle. Thank you.
You're muted, Joanne.
Thank you so very much, Chair of the Nominating Committee, Ed Sen, and thank you so much to the Nominating Committee for your diligent work. Will there be, moving on, are there nominations from the floor during this meeting for the upcoming election?
Joanne, I think traditionally, not to give you even more work to do tonight, the nominations for the floor are invited title by title. So if you want to just go through them.
Thanks. This is my first year doing this. All right. Are there nominations from the floor for the role of Chair of Community Board 14? Are there nominations from the floor for first vice chair? Are there nominations from the floor for second vice chair? Are there not, do we have a third? I'm sorry, I'm so discombobulated.
Yeah.
All right, nominations for third vice chair. Nominations for secretary. Nominations for member at large number 1. And nominations for member at large number 2. Okay, I think I've got all the positions on the executive committee. I've seen no nominations from the floor. Thank you very much, everyone. The election will be held, or the announcement of the election results will be announced March 14th general meeting, correct? District Manager Sean Campbell, great.
That's right. Thanks, everyone.
Woo! Okay, well, I know you're all so happy, but that ends the chair's report for tonight. Thank you very much. Moving on to topical committees. The first committee we will hear from is Community and Cultural Affairs and Economic Development.
We are having our next meeting on March 31st. And we're going to have at least 2 bids there, and we're hoping to get representatives from the Parks Department there. Also related to the Parks Department, the administrator of Prospect Park, Sue Donahue, has been appointed Parks Commissioner for the city. So hopefully we'll have a friend in the Parks Department. That's the end of my report.
Thank you very much, and thank you for making that announcement. This is wonderful news. Well deserved. Brava. Moving on to topical committee, community safety, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson Brown. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of my co-chair, Mr. Abe Treff, and thanks to Anya and Sean, who got 2 very well-organized persons for the FDNY, Captain Pozo, and OEM Deputy Director Brian Fargnoli, I believe his name is. They made very thorough presentations. And so the first presentation, which was made by Captain Kozo of the FDNY, addressed fire prevention and preparedness. He informed us that this year we already have had 22 fire fatalities, and that there's a trend in fire fatalities that have been going up since 2019, and the last count, which was at 63, and in 2021, at the end of 2021, it was 73 fire fatalities. He did list the top 3 causes of fire, which are smoking, kitchen, and electrical. He noted that smokers are 7 times more likely to cause a fire, and that kitchen fires were caused by unattended cooking pots. And so he had a little ditty which says, if you keep an eye on what you fry. In essence, what he said, if you're cooking, you should never leave the kitchen, but if you have to, you should always have, you should set an alarm, a timer, set a timer, and or wear an oven mitt on your hand if you have to open the door or go somewhere else. And that way it might jar your memory as to, yes, I was cooking or baking or doing something of the sort. If there is a fire that with grease fire, never ever, he said, pour water on it or put it in the sink and turn the water on. That will just cause the flames to shoot up. And so he said one should always have baking soda as well as your fire extinguisher, because then you can sprinkle the baking soda on the fire, and then you should always have a fitted lid for the pan so that you can cover it and leave it covered for at least 5 minutes. He did state that you have 0 to 45 seconds in which to get a fire under control, and after that you need to dial 911, exit, make an egress, and dial 911. The best kind of fire extinguisher to get is an ABC fire extinguisher, one that has no X's through pictures. That way, you know that the extinguisher can put out whatever kind of fire
Participant has left the meeting.
is listed on the canister. And he said, always remember the acronym PASS. P, pull the trigger. A, aim at the base of the fire. And the first S is to squeeze the trigger, and the second S is to spray from side to side. Also, he did state that electrical fires are caused mostly by space heaters, and that space heaters should, anything that heats or cools, whether it's an oven or air conditioning, it should always be plugged directly into the wall. The plugs that they come with, that's what should be used. It should not be plugged into an extension cord or a power strip, and we shouldn't overload power strips by plugging one power strip into another power strip. And look for the UL label and make sure that the space heaters have space around them, 3 feet completely around them. And it's always best to get a space heater that has an automatic shut-off valve. Just in case it falls over, it will turn itself off. And there are fewer fires being caused by open flame candles, basically because more people are using battery operated candles. He did suggest that he's seeing there's a trend in older folks setting themselves on fire because of loose fitting clothing or long sleeves, and suggested that tighter fitting clothing are being worn when you're cooking, or short sleeves, that way to prevent that. He spoke about carbon and smoke, the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, that there should be one on each level of your home, and the non-carbon smoke only detector in each bedroom in your home. And he gave the number for to call Red Cross to get or to have either the Red Cross or FDNY install free carbon monoxide / smoke detectors. This is important. He said there are new detectors coming out that have a 10-year, the batteries will last 10 years and they cannot be removed. So they're sealed batteries, and it makes it much better. However, if your current alarms makes, your current detector makes 1 chirp every 60 seconds, it means your battery is dying. And 3 long tones means that there's a fire. So you should, once you located the fire, close the door, dial 911 and get out. Most importantly, if there are 4 swift chirps, it means that there is carbon monoxide. So open up windows, get out, dial 911. And carbon monoxide poisoning, some symptoms are nausea, headache, and flu-like symptoms. Why? He said because the carbon monoxide is basically trying to suffocate you from inside, replacing the oxygen in your body with, the carbon monoxide. So he said, always plan your egress, your way of escape. Make sure that your family knows ahead of time how they're going to get out and where they will end up. And then Brian told us a little about what the Office of Emergency Management does, and that we should, he spoke about preparedness, personal preparedness for individuals, and we should always have a to-go bag, not just for ourselves, but for pets. If we do have pets, we should have a to-go bag for the pets. We should make sure that whatever we need is in the bag, such as cash and small bills, change of clothing. Always have a list of the medication, the dosage, the doctor's number, the doctor's name, the pharmacy and the pharmacist's number, just in case you have to run out of the house without your medication. Make sure that you have extra batteries to charge your phones, or if you have life-saving equipment, should be in that bag. Copies of your insurance, homeowner's insurance, and copies of anything that you may need should be in that bag. Picture of your pets should be in the bag, just in case, you get this separated. And then we can sign up as here in New York with Notify NYC, and also Know Your Zone, nyc.gov/knowyourzone. For the record, those of us who live within this area, not really a hurricane zone. So I did try it out. And that was basically, I think, for the most part. Well, it was very thorough. So it's everything. Oh, and the list of numbers and websites and links and videos are on CB14's website. So you can go there and be informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we have a question from Glenn Wallen.
Thank you, Florencia, for a very thorough report. I would just like to emphasize one thing, and that is the closing of doors. If you must leave, that is, you cannot put the fire out, it is essential that you remember to close the doors. And if you live in an apartment building of any sort, legally, the doors should be self-closing, and if they are not, please make sure to get them fixed. Containing the fire is the most important thing for saving lives, especially in an apartment building. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Thank you. And also, Sean did recognize Glenn as a CERT member, which I didn't talk about, but they're volunteers. So thank you, Glenn.
Thank you very much. And I can take one more question from Joe Dweck.
Just quickly, thank you for the report. Also, Valencia, that we had a disaster in our house. A light bulb exploded over our bed, and the smoke detector went off. The flames went to the ceiling, and I'm urging everybody: you must have fire extinguishers. That was able to save the house and save our everybody. Because I have fire extinguishers. You please, everybody have fire extinguishers. Thanks. Bye.
Wow. Thanks, Joe. I'm glad everyone is okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Florencia, for that report. Moving on, next report from Housing and Land Use, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, everybody. And on behalf of Co-Chair Talisha Saintville as well, we're both very excited for the newly constituted Housing and Land Use Committee. Our first meeting actually will be occurring shortly. It's on March 3rd. We'll be having a representative from DCP to talk about all things planning and zoning. One item I think we've already settled on is to talk about as of right uses and why they don't come before the community board, and to get into more detail on that and all other issues as well. So March 3rd is our next meeting, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And germane to this committee, just a reminder to all board members that last summer, we created a Lunch and Learn series. Is about 7 episodes, all dedicated to land use. So it's on our YouTube channel if you want to get a little preview of some of the things you might see coming from this committee. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Next report is from Human Services Committee, please.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody who is here. We have an upcoming meeting on February 24th. It's really, really relevant. And we have, I checked out the bios on the speakers and I'm very impressed. We have a report regarding COVID-19 from the Department of Health, and that will be presented by Athea Frimpong, community liaison, and she has a quite a resume in terms of community health involvement. So I think she's going to have a lot of very interesting things to share with us. We will also be hearing from Dr. Michael Augebrown, who is an infectious disease specialist, and he's affiliated with SUNY Downstate, Kings County, and New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. So that it's going to be really excellent to hear from them and hear the latest about how this particular disease is affecting all of us. We will also be hearing from Casey Burke, who is a licensed master social worker, who will be speaking to us from Breaking Ground, street homelessness outreach update. And he'll be giving us a lot of information about the work that they've been doing. And as you may know, there was a kind of a head count that took place a few weeks ago. So I'm sure that whatever it is that he's talking about will be including the count that was done at that time. So again, put it on your calendars, February 24th, and we're looking forward to everybody being there. Thank you.
Anita,
Thank you very much.
As Joel, I'm the co-chair. We're gearing up. The end of March will be the annual not-for-profit roundtable.
Oh, yes, thank you.
The date has not been set, but that's a big event. It'll be at the East Midwood Jewish Center sometime the end of March.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Really looking forward to that. I love that event.
Right. So,
Moving on to next committee, transportation, please.
Hi all, Barden Present here. Steve's away and asked that I give a report, or in this case, more of a preview of coming attractions. We are planning an April meeting. We had originally hoped to have it in March, but it didn't look like we'd have enough of the agency participation we were seeking. The issues that we're hoping to be able to address in April are, one, that the MTA will come and give us an update on their bus lane programs, in particular how the one on Church Ave has been faring. It's been sort of a hit or miss depending upon with whom you speak. And as you may know, Mayor Adams is pursuing a doubling of dedicated bus lanes across New York City. And the MTA has seemingly said that Flatbush Ave is under consideration. So I think it'll be important to see how well they've done on Church. That will inform our decisions as to, you know, how we're going to approach their proposition for doing it down Flatbush as well. We're also hoping in April to have an update on the bike lanes that they installed south of the parade ground from DOT. When I believe I remember we first were given that presentation, we did ask that they come back at some point down the line and give us a review of what changes had occurred on the basis of the changes that they had put forward. So we're hoping to get a sort of a status report on that. Then Sean gave that perfect report on the open restaurant city council meeting. And she did mention that at some point we're hoping that DOT will come back, hopefully straight to the community boards for additional input and more reportage. So maybe that'll be April or sometime thereafter. And then the last for the April meeting will be a DOT report on the Open Streets program, to which Councilmember Lewis had referred earlier. Briefly, in either May or June, we'll have a few other issues. Perhaps the MTA will be ready to come to us to speak about the Interborough Express, which is that program which will be connecting Bay Ridge and Jackson Heights using existing rail lines. Port Authority, I gather, has gotten back into the Cross Harbor Freight Tunnel, which will be connecting Brooklyn to New Jersey, and they've started the study again, and so we hope we can get an update on that. Last, Newkirk Plaza, I understand there's been some MTA activity there, and Anya thinks we might get some sort of heads up about what's going on there, but maybe it's again time to raise that issue again before them. So that's pretty much it. I did put in the chat, I'd spotted a couple of other sort of DOT related issues, the reckless driving, to which Deputy Inspector Esposito had referred, and then the issue of perhaps motor and regular bike registration. So watch this space for further announcements, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for that really comprehensive preview of what's happening. You have quite the robust committee this year. Thank you. Moving on to youth services, education, and libraries, please.
Good evening, folks. Good evening, Chairwoman Brown. It's definitely hard to follow, Mr. Barden Prasad, aka Mr. Movie-thon, but I'll do my best. And so basically, it's just that yours truly and my fellow co-chair Nikki, we will be having our meeting on March 7th, which is a Monday, and it would be starting at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you very much. Hey, Carl, can we just give everyone like a little glimpse of the Youth Leadership Council meeting that we had in January and maybe some of the activities we did?
Yes, that is true. Yes, we could definitely do that too. And so we had a wonderful time meeting several of the members of the Youth Leadership Council. So we met in person at the Brooklyn CB14 office. So that was great to see people. So myself, Nikki, Dwayne, District Manager Sean Campbell, and Chairwoman Brown was there. And then we also had, if I remember correctly, I believe it was 4 of the students, and then also one of the students, her father, accompanied us as well. And so Joanne led us through some exercises, which were great. And these were some materials that Nikki had found and shared with her as well, which were all about community mapping, and then also a way of looking at the assets that your community has, and also the needs that you believe the community could benefit from. And that was one set of it. And another activity that we did was also a kind of self-mapping, if you will, of just looking at what are some of the skills that you believe you possess, what are some of the things that you would like to improve upon, and then what are some of the things that you think you possess innately. And so, it was a great way to meet people, to meet the Youth Leadership Council members. It was a great way to, start identifying the things that you think you have, and also that you realize other people have as well too, because Chairwoman Brown had said at some point that was really good, was, hey, as you look at this, you may realize that a skill that you have could be something that someone else says they want to acquire or develop, right? So she used that as a great way of having some of these people break out of their shell and go, oh, I should talk to you about this because you want to learn Spanish. And it turns out, like, I speak Spanish naturally. Great. And then when we got to the part about the community mapping, Dwayne had some really good things where he was pushing some of the Youth Leadership Council members to think about things where it's just, okay, this may be an asset here, but is it always an asset 24/7? Or are there certain situations where this asset is no longer as prevalent for some people as it is for others? And so very high level, it was a very productive meeting, and it was fun just to see people in person, especially the members of the Youth Leadership Council. And I think it was a very good first step.
Thank you very much for that report. It was a really great meeting. And again, I want to thank the members of the Youth Leadership Council that came out. And I really want to thank the mentors, Carl Henry Cesar, Dwayne Joseph, and Nicole Livingston Angulo, who led the students in their activities. So thanks so much. And thank you for your report tonight. This ends the items from topical committees. We're going to be moving into the public session now. Let me get my little script. Okay. This brings us to our public comment period. Board members are expected to remain for the public comment period. Because we're meeting remotely, all speakers were asked to pre-register via email to the board office. Any member of the public who is not able to register in time can follow up directly with the board and staff, who will include appropriate announcements on the CB14 website. Matters of civic interest and announcements of public events are invited. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises are permitted. Service delivery requests should be brought to the attention of the staff by email or during regular business hours. Each speaker will be permitted for up to 3 minutes and may not receive additional time from another speaker. The board has an obligation to conduct its business in an orderly manner. Any person preventing the meeting from continuing will be muted and possibly disconnected from the meeting. The intent of the public comment period is to permit the board and the community a chance to hear diverse perspectives on public issues. Accordingly, we ask that groups be represented by a single speaker. It is now 8:32. Anya Hoyer will be announcing our previously registered speakers at this time.
The speaker is Rocky Bhattacharya.
I think we had a hard time hearing that.
Our first speaker is Rocky Bhattacharya from Brooklyn Public Library. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the Brooklyn Public Library. I was given some talking points to update the community board on. The first point I have is tax help. All the libraries have federal and New York State tax forms available for the public to pick up. Please call the branch from before to determine availability. As you know, we have to order them and they come in as they are shipped. We are partnering with reputable organizations for free tax help in certain locations during the 2021 tax season. The 3 locations that we do have tax assistance are the Central Library, Flatbush branch, which is in our community board district, and the New Lots library. You have to make an appointment to be able to get tax help, and appointments are 1 hour long. The second point I have is we have a new member of the library, Ms. Raina Bacher, who's our new digital literacy associate for services to older adults. And she will assist with tech demands such as screen readers, smartphones, computer support, virtual programs, social media, and software. Her email is rbakr@brooklynlibrary.org. The third point I have is that Brooklyn Public Library offers a range of services, resources, and programming for those who are preparing to become U.S. citizens. However, because of the COVID, we are only offering citizenship classes online. These classes meet 3 hours a week and are taught by experienced instructors that you can email Immigrant Services for more information. And lastly, we recently had a spike in interest in COVID test kit distributions. Several branches are doing that, including the Central Library, Brownsville, Crown Heights, Flatbush, which is in our district, Mill Basin, New Utrecht, and the Red Hook Library. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Njinga Prescott. I apologize if I mispronounced your name, from the Prescott Institute for Sport, Teamwork, and Education.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Nzinga Prescott. I'm an Olympic fencer, two-time Olympic fencer for Team USA. I'm also a world champion. I serve on the board of directors at USA Fencing as an athlete director. So I'm very involved in the Olympic movement and grew up in this district. So this is cool to be here and represent sport and represent Team USA and be part of the home community here. So I started a program called the Prescott Institute for Sport, Teamwork, and Education. We started as Fencing in the Park, which is a summer program in Marine Park. So it's for the community. We have a few programs. We have school programs. We have the park program. We do community clinics. We did one with the mayor's Young Men's Initiative, and we've done some for different programs in schools across the city. And recently, 3 months ago, we opened our academy in Flatbush, which is at the Flatbush YMCA. Our academy and all of our programs are no cost to family, no required cost. Our goal and our mission is to introduce the sport of fencing and its principles of discipline, strategic thinking, problem solving, hard work, basically, to the kids in the community, especially kids who wouldn't have access to quality youth development experiences. So I really see fencing and sports as a tool for education, to learn these skills, to learn effort and to have joy in effort, to learn structure, to learn what commitment looks like, what teamwork looks like, all of those things, teaching those through sport. Fencing is also a non-traditional sport, as I'm sure you're aware, and it opens a lot of doors to scholarships, educational opportunities, cultural opportunities, networks, really prestigious networks, a lot of job opportunity, professional opportunities when you graduate from school. So it's a very high return, rewarding investment for young people. And so I've always wanted to bring it back to my neighborhood because I was lonely as the only one coming from this neighborhood going to Manhattan every day. You can imagine the commitment it takes to make the Olympic team. So I grew up in Flatland, so I'm not even close to the train. This year we've been doing really well. So we started in 2020. We won the Service and Hope Award from the Olympic Committee this year. We're working with Nike this year. We have a couple of brands that we're working with. Here's a promo video if anyone wants to take a look at what we do at the Academy. But I'm here to tell everyone about it, and it's very near. It's my baby. So I'm the founder. I run the operations. I coach the kids. I fundraise. I'm very much a multi-dimensional figure in the program, and it's very tough, but it's for right now, especially in our early stages. Like I said, it's a free program, so we're very much based on contributions, fundraising, grants, those kinds of things. So I'm putting this out there to share with you all. I know that like having the support of the community board is really important for government decisions in terms of funding and support, and so just wanted to make this known that this is going on. We are applying for discretionary funding. So for elected officials on the call, I wanted to make that apparent. I wanted to also propose like having budget from the Brooklyn delegation. I'm not really sure how that works, but I'm hoping the community board is involved. So I just wanted to put that out there. We're also having a recruitment event this coming Sunday. So I'm going to drop it in the chat to sign up, and my email also in the chat. Besides this, I graduated from Columbia in political science, so I'm involved. I have a deep interest in policy. I was part of the team. I was a visionary leader for the passage of the Office of Sport, Wellness, and Recreation legislation that passed last year. So that was introduced by Councilmember Rodriguez, co-sponsored by Jamani Williams and the current mayor, then Borough President Eric Adams. And so that's slated to take off sometime soon. And so that also need some support in the political space. So just want to put those all on your radar. Please check it out. If you would like to contact me, I dropped my email in the chat. I am a bit swamped, so I might take a little bit of time to respond, but I will get back to you. And I look forward to meeting you guys if you're interested in connecting. And it's very cool to be here because I grew up here and now I'm back with my program. So it's really a pleasure to speak to you guys. Thanks.
Madam Chair, can I quickly jump in just to say let's please stay in touch. We want to bring you into our nonprofit roundtable. We'll want to engage you in our youth conference, which we didn't talk about tonight, but it will be our 15th year of doing that. And then there's other networks and connections. NYPD is always looking for programs to refer kids that they're interacting with to before they're interacting in a bad way. So let's have a fuller conversation, arrange a time for you and I to talk about this. And yeah, we can talk about funding through the Brooklyn delegation and stuff like that. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you on all of your accomplishments.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Please check out our video. It's cool. It's adorable. I enjoy
Thank
watching
you.
it smile.
And I'll be reaching out to you as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Final registration for the evening is Eileen Mulaney Newman from the Office of the Borough President. Go ahead, Eileen.
Hi there. Happy Valentine's Day to the most wonderful board that I love. And I just wanted to let you all know that we are up and running. Borough President Reynoso, well, you know, we lost a lot of staff. I think you probably all might have heard that. So we are gathering and recruiting. So, but we're getting there and the office is going really well. What I wanted to remind any CB14 members to do is to reapply through the website, brooklyn-usa.org. And if you have any questions, you know, I don't want to take up time on this today, just reach out to me personally and I'll put my, my contact information in the chat. But it's all, sorry, I'm in a little dark a little bit here, but it's lovely to see you all. And I look forward to another year. Thank you.
Hi, Anya. It's Nancy Lulu. I'm also a registered speaker. I think you forgot about me.
Sorry. Yes, go ahead. Nancy Lulu from the Brooklyn DA's office. I'm sorry if we didn't get your
No worries. Thank you so much. Good evening, Community Board 14 and attendees. Just quick announcements. First, I would like to extend my deepest condolences to the late member, to the Schultz family and their loved ones. I'm really sorry for their loss. Just to move on to announcements from my office. On February 9th, the Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez announced the creation of a new helpline and email to address and accept reports of use of sale of fraudulent vaccine records to combat abuse that can endanger the public. The helpline will also assist the public in reporting abuse of the Pandemic Relief Program for businesses and individuals, including the Payback Check Protection Program, PPP, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, EIDL, and the unemployment benefits. The falling COVID numbers are very encouraging, but those who selfishly sell or present fake vaccine credentials put our progress and healthcare system and delays everything that we've worked on throughout the years. So, and it also puts the lives of the vulnerable people at risk. We have no tolerance for this crime in Brooklyn, and we encourage anyone who has information regarding the use of fraudulent vaccine credentials or abuse of COVID-19 financial relief programs to call our hotline. And I will put it in the chat, but the number is 718-250-2255 and the email address is vaxfraud@brooklynda.org. Calls and emails are answered by trained specialists at the DA's office, and they will be reviewed by a dedicated team. Just to echo what Councilmember Lewis and Deputy Inspector Esposito touched on regarding hate crimes, our office is working closely. Our office is working closely with partners to combat the disturbing rise of anti-Asian, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim and any hate crime or any crime. So hate crimes have no place in Brooklyn, and we will be vigorously prosecuting those cases. I also urge anyone who believes that they have been targeted in Brooklyn to report to our Hate Crimes Bureau, and the number there is 718-250-4949. And just quickly, in honor of Black History Month, the Brooklyn DA's office will be holding a virtual event on February 28th. I will be sending out the flyer sometimes this week to Community Board 14. What else? Also, I would like to acknowledge Lunar New Year. Happy Lunar New Year. And also happy Valentine's Day. And if there's anything you would like to address with our office, you call the Action Center at 718-250-2340. And as always, thank you so much to Community Board 14 for everything that you do. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Slower.
Thank you, Nancy. I have one more speaker for the evening. I have Ellie Slavin from Congressional Office of Representatives Office. Go ahead, Ellie.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much. I want to also thank the board for extending their condolences to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. She lost her partner of 30 years, as mentioned before, Mr. Charles Duran. I knew him quite well. A wonderful, wonderful human being. Volunteered a lot for the office. And the funeral was yesterday. And so again, I thank you for extending your condolences, and I will bring that to the Congresswoman. We are at 222 Lenox Road. We're in full operation. Our number is 718-287-1142. We're dealing with federal issues, visas, passports, immigration. As you all understand, it's very, very tough for the new immigrants, and also for, of course, for those who are living in this country as prior citizens. So the Congressman was very busy in Washington, as you all know what's going on there. It's not easy these days. There is one event that's being co-sponsored by Congresswoman Yvette Clarke with Congresswoman Jeffries and Congresswoman Velasquez. I send that information to the Committee Board 14's website. It's a virtual resume building and career opportunity workshop, which will be Wednesday, February 18th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. So as I said, the information, it's all going to be live via Facebook. So the site is on your website. So please, those who can spread the word. And again, everybody, good night. Thank you. And as everybody's wished, happy Lunar Year, happy Valentine's Day. And as we say in Hebrew, a happy Tamid, a happy, steady happiness. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you. Thank you, and please do convey our condolences. We're so sorry for her loss.
Thank you.
This concludes the public session.
Madam Chair, I'm so sorry to interrupt because I know we want to wrap it up, but I just want to acknowledge Kenneth Lazar was on, he doesn't have anything to say, but was on most of the meeting this evening from the Department of Buildings and has been working with this office. So I just wanted to acknowledge his presence. He spent a lot of time with us. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thanks a lot. I saw him and then he disappeared. Thanks a lot. This concludes our public comment period. And so we can move to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. This meeting is adjourned at 8:49 p.m. Thanks so much for your patience tonight.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank
you,
Jen.
Happy Valentine's
Good
Day.
night, everyone.
Good night, Don Marie. Good night, Anya.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Shahid.
Carl.
Good night, Allison.
Good night.
Good night, Deborah. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Gail. Good night, everyone.